second option is to accept who you are, to actually feel at peace about it, so that if it was exposed, you don't feel embarrassed or ashamed because you are happy, you've accepted yourself.
And then she just looks like a dick anyway for exposing it.
I promise you, 99% of women are better at figuring you out than you are at hiding it.
It's the same arrogance on the reverse of women not being able to acknowledge that men are more rational, logical creatures.
Women love to embarrass men.
Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Christine Grace, and today I am going to be reacting to another Alexander Grace video. I know you guys love his content. I'm also thoroughly enjoying his content. This video is about how women love to embarrass men. Yeah, can't really disagree with that statement so far. So let's see Alexander's evidence for this claim.
Women love to embarrass men. It's one of the weapons that they have in their arsenal. Obviously, women can't physically attack men because men have so much more like upper body strength. It's just not safe for them to do so. When they need to attack a man, they need to be more subtle about it. That's why women rely on strategies that center around reputation destruction, and that sort of thing fascinates them. That's why, high school girl cliques, their friendships are so tense and emotional all the time because they can say all these things behind each other's backs. It's why women read gossip magazines, go on social media, why they watch reality TV. Is that sort of thing that fascinates them. It's the sort of battleground of reputation destruction that they feel very comfortable in. Men don't find that nearly as interesting. We're more likely to watch like the UFC or something. It resonates with our conflict resolution. But while reputation destruction between women is often done with like secrets and whispers and saying things behind people's back, when it's done to a man, when a woman wants to destroy a man's reputation, it's not so much about whispers. She wants to do it publicly. She wants people to see. She wants him to be embarrassed. Why?
And it's this idea of emasculating is rife in our culture. Women love to try and emasculate men. And they think they do it so well a lot of the time, when really they're not doing much at all. They're just making a bit of a fool of themselves. I see this on the Whatever podcast quite a lot.
Because it's really effective. Women do it to men because it works. It hurts a man to be embarrassed. Women have a lot of power over men in this regard because for a man, the respect that he receives from like other people is largely based on his competence, to the degree to which people respect him and admire him. Is he the real deal? Can he walk his talk? You've probably heard people like Jordan Peterson reference competence hierarchies. The idea that, men respect each other based on merit, based on talent, and we sort of sort out a bit of a hierarchy of respect based on who's kind of the best, who deserves that respect, who's trustworthy. So what happens when a woman embarrasses a man in front of other people and he is publicly humiliated and shown to be like vulnerable or a fraud or untrustworthy? Well, then people start to respect him a lot less. This is why public embarrassment is such a big deal for men, because if people see you being incompetent or being a fraud, then nobody's going to trust you. And if they don't trust you, they're not going to assign you any responsibilities. And a man without responsibilities is a man that nobody respects or values. It hurts men, and that's why low-quality women will use this strategy of publicly embarrassing men in order to punish them. There's some examples of this in real stories as part of my course, so you can check that out here. But you've probably seen examples of this in your own life, of women publicly embarrassing men. Like imagine a couple is at a party and they're having a fight and she decides to just air all the dirty laundry in front of everybody. She's flirting with other men, she's revealing secrets about her boyfriend, she's talking about his sexual inadequacies. It is such a trashy thing to do. I really have no time for low quality women who engage in this kind of behavior. If you're upset with your partner, then deal with it in private. Show some decorum, show some respect.
Have some class.
At least then you can be sure that the person is actually trying to resolve the issue. Like, yes, we're in conflict, we're in disagreement, but I don't want to fight with you. Let's talk maturely like adults and try and resolve it, get back on each other's team, not just attack and argue and fight with each other. I've seen women do this in like mixed company settings by embarrassing their boyfriend by like loudly and publicly disagreeing with them whenever they say something. Women do it because it works. It's really, really embarrassing for the men. Everybody's looking at him like, wow, like your girlfriend respects respects you so little that she's calling you a chump and disagreeing with you in front of all of these people, and she doesn't even care. I've had high quality women tell me that they have a personal policy of never disagreeing with their boyfriend in front of other people, and I really applaud that instinct. It's not that she shouldn't be allowed to disagree, but just a basic understanding of a time and place and the impact that that's going to have on him. That should be the bare minimum that's expected of your girlfriend. This is your man. He's your guy. He's your boyfriend, your teammates. By supporting him, you're supporting yourself. It's your job to build him up, to encourage him, not to tear him down in front of other people because you're feeling petty and vindictive. It's a little bit.
Also, these women don't think it through either. Like, how embarrassing. You've just demonstrated that there is no greatness about your man. You have no respect of him whatsoever. That you're gonna sort of publicly humiliate him, and this is probably when they're in a time of conflict. Chances are, and I've seen it time and time again, they'll make up and everything will be fine, and then a week later, they'll be trying to play the happy couple, and she'll want him to present as this kind of alpha male, but it's like, how can anyone view him like that? How can you even really view him like that when you're presenting yourself and thus your relationship by extension in that way in the public sphere? It just doesn't make any sense. I think it's embarrassing for him, but it should also be embarrassing for you as a woman to want to make your guy come across like that, especially in front of other guys and other women. Like, it's just weird. Yeah.
Controversial to say this in today's climate, but to a certain extent, a woman's happiness is dependent upon her man. If you want to see me go into a full deep dive on that, it's the latest topic of my Patreon video, so check that out here. So as a man who doesn't want to be publicly humiliated and embarrassed by women, obviously your first step is to only spend time with high quality women who have, as part of their personal value system, a promise to not do that. They have a sense of morality that they're not going to subject men to that kind of public embarrassment. So if you're spending time with women who don't have that personal morality, and you're dating the kind of woman who would happily publicly embarrass you and she thinks there's nothing wrong with that, first step, dump her. But that's obvious. If you really want to sink into this topic with a lot more depth, let's try and approach it psychologically, okay? Understand that a woman only has a power to embarrass you if you have given her that power. It's like that martial arts principle of using your opponent's strength against you. That's what this is. Think about it. If her plan of attack is to embarrass you by like publicly exposing you, you can only feel embarrassed if that embarrassment lives inside you. If you're not embarrassed about something, then she really has no weapon to use against you. I understand this is all easier said than done. If you need some advice, like about your own personal situation, you can hit me up here and go into your specific situation. But really, when you think about
you be careful with telling women your insecurities, and be careful with giving away all of your ammunition, because women, we are manipulative creatures. We do exert aggression through manipulation tactics rather than physical aggression, such as men do. So be careful with what you're giving away, because look at it this way. You know, perhaps there are no red flags that this is the kind of woman that you're dealing with, but for whatever reason, you know, you have let something slip. You have let an insecurity slip. This will probably happen in the early stages of a relationship. I'm hoping it would anyway, so at least you can get out before it's too far down the road. And then for whatever reason, she does attempt to publicly humiliate you. If you've armed her with the ammunition that could embarrass you, make you feel uncomfortable, then obviously that's what it's going to be. And this isn't to try to defend what the women are doing, but let's just acknowledge the fact here. There are women who do this. But if you're selective with what you're giving away, especially in the early stages of that relationship, when you're just testing the waters to see the kind of woman that she is, if you haven't armed her with enough ammunition, she's taken something, she's tried to publicly humiliate you, but what she said doesn't affect you at all, and you're just basically laughing at her, well, that's going to embarrass her. And women hate public humiliation just as much as men do. Be careful what you're arming women with in the very early stages, especially if you can't already tell the kind of woman she is and the kind of values she has. Also, you've got to be very careful with women. As I've said, let's just acknowledge the facts here. We are emotional creatures, and we can be very manipulative. She might do this, so just be careful at the start.
it, what is embarrassment like at its core? It's public exposure of a part of yourself that you wish wasn't there or that you don't want other people to see. So if you've got a man who's got this persona of being like the tough guy, like really strong and macho, but inside he's actually very scared and weak and fragile, then the women in his life have a huge amount of power over him because they could expose him. They could act in such a way that's going to demonstrate to people that the guy is really weak and fragile, and he's terrified of that. But a man who is genuinely tough, he is actually sincerely strong inside himself, he's not going to be vulnerable to that same kind of embarrassment because he has nothing that can be exposed. What's she going to point to? If there's nothing fake about him, then he can't be exposed as a fraud. So right now, as you're watching this video, I want you to think about something
That's true, because even if you do open up about your insecurities, but you're so completely open about them and really aware of them, you know, if a woman tries to expose something about you publicly and then you're kind of like, so what? You know, that just makes her look like a dick. Yeah, that strategy, I think, could also work.
You're embarrassed about yourself, that you would feel extremely humiliated if it ever was publicly exposed. Some character trait, some shameful secret you have about yourself, have that in mind. Oh God, I would be so embarrassed if a woman ever exposed me in front of other people about this thing that I'm always trying to keep hidden, that I don't like about myself. Okay, you got that thing in mind? Now, let me tell you, you've got two options on how to deal with this. One is to fix it, change it. Whatever the thing is inside yourself, make it something different. Grow, learn, transform so that you're no longer that same person. That's one option. The second option is to accept who you are, to actually feel at peace about it so that if it was exposed, you don't feel embarrassed or ashamed because you're happy, you've accepted yourself.
And then she just looks like a dick anyway for exposing it.
You don't mind people to see it. You're not trying to hide anything. So to give a demonstration, say you're some young guy and you're embarrassed about your lack of experience with women, and it would be like your nightmare if some girl in the middle of a party was to like point at you and say, hey, you've never even dated a girl before. So how are you going to prevent this? Well, you've got those two methods. One is to go out there and get experience with women so that you no longer have anything to be embarrassed about. Or the second way is just deal with it internally. Recognize that you're still a young guy, still developing, and that the dating market sucks.
It's that idea of accountability and self-responsibility. If you make everything your own problem, you have control over it. But ultimately, the power of how much something can hurt you dictated really down to how you feel about it. If you believe something has the power to embarrass you and hurt you, then it ultimately will. If you don't give it that power, then it won't.
It's normal that it should take some time to get good at this stuff. Why should you feel embarrassed? Do you see how powerful that is? Like if you genuinely accept yourself and you're not worried about being exposed, if a woman was ever to do that to you, to point at you and try and humiliate you in that way, you could just look at that girl and say, I'm actually very comfortable with where I'm at life. I must say, I feel embarrassed on your behalf right now. What you're doing right now is really weird. You should sit down. Just because a woman wants to embarrass you does not mean that you have to be embarrassed. It takes two to tango. Her frame is that you should be humiliated, but you don't have to operate inside her frame. So either of those two techniques will work, but one technique is guaranteed to fail. And unfortunately, it's the most popular technique chosen by men who don't want to be embarrassed. They think that they're just going to develop better and better ways of hiding it from people so that no woman's ever going to be able to tell their shameful secret or the things that they're embarrassed about. I hate to say it, but this is such a case of male arrogance, thinking that he's going to be successful in that task. Do you have any understanding of how much better women are at this social stuff than we are? While men for hundreds of thousands of years were developing instincts to do with strength and hunting and fighting and all of that stuff, women were honing their skills about socializing, body language, tone of voice, reading meaning into words that you weren't even aware were imbued with meaning. Women are so much better at this stuff than men are. Add on top of that, women are especially sensitive to how a man is coming across because it's such an important part of their psychology that they can understand who's high quality and who's faking it because they don't want to accidentally fall for the wrong guy and have kids with a chump. As good as you think you are at faking it, at coming across as Mr. Suave, Mr. High Value guy, I promise you, 99% of women are better at figuring you out than you are at hiding it. If you don't believe me, okay, but your arrogance is going to get you into trouble. That false confidence is going to get blown apart at some point. Women can...
It's the same arrogance on the It's this whole problem in society that we're seeing of, women thinking that accepting these facts is misogyny and it places men on a pedestal and means women are inferior. No, it just means that the course of time and the instinct for survival has led to different traits being prominent in the two sexes. And it's absolutely true. Women, we have this sense, we have this intuition for things because that's how we've had to be to survive. And, on the flip side, men can do all of these things that we can't. That's no misogyny, that's no superiority, that's just a fact of survival. And it can be used to its advantages and disadvantages on either side. We can accept that without hating each other.
And smell insecurity on a man. They can sniff out a fraud. If you are acting like somebody that you're not, they will find out. They will test you. They will poke you. They will prod you. The little social experiments they put you under will be relentless. And at some point, you will fail, you'll be exposed, and you'll be embarrassed, and you'll have nobody to blame but yourself. Do not expect mercy from women. They will be absolutely brutal. They will feel justified in their brutality. When a man is trying to come across in a way differently than he actually is, women feel personally attacked, and they're not entirely wrong to feel that way. Because like I said earlier, the evolutionary consequences for a woman being tricked about the quality of a man are so huge. This is why women feel morally justified in giving men tests at being vicious if they ever find a man was faking his confidence or pretending to be somebody other than he truly is. Because in their minds, they're not attacking that man. In their minds, it's self-defense. So please don't be complacent about this and rely on your skills of fakery or expect mercy from women. Women are not going to give up public embarrassment as a weapon. It's too powerful. Why would they? So if you want to be safe, the only way to do it is to be a man of integrity. Stop with the lies, stop with the fakery, learn how to be at peace with yourself. That way, if she ever does try to publicly expose you, she'll find that you're actually consistent, you're congruent, you were always being honest, and then she's the embarrassed one because she misread the situation and she ends up humiliating herself. Remember that honesty and authenticity are one of the strongest expressions of masculinity.
Completely agree. I would really urge all of the male members of my audience to go check out Alexander Grace because I think he's equipping you guys with some really, really good points. And he touches on things in such a way that is so true to reality. It's so true to both sides of the coin. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of the content in the manosphere, gets this tag of misogyny and, a lot of people get called incels and, they say it's all about shaming women. I just think that's because, unfortunately, women don't hear how guys talk when women aren't around a lot of the time. So when they do hear it, it's kind of that's so bad. But someone like Alexander Grace, I couldn't really see any normal girl hearing that stuff and calling it misogynistic or patriarchal or anything like that. I think he puts it in a very clear, concise way. And yeah, I think it's beneficial, the points that he's putting across. What did you think of this particular video? Why don't you let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, please do give it a thumbs up on your way out. Go check out my series, Debunking the Lunacy, for all sorts of craziness that we see in our society, and we try and discern some sense of the craziness together. So I look forward to seeing you over there.